Hello, and welcome back to the Poetry Podcast with me, Lance Pearson. Today we look at one of the early roots of English poetry, planted back in medieval times, which is the ballad. The word ballad originally meant a dance or musical accompaniment to a dance. From there, the ballad lyrics were usually songs. So our first example is a well-known song, the Ballad of Barbara Allen. If you want to see the words, they're on our website, thepoetrypodcast.com.
In Scarlet Town, where I was born, there was a fair maid dwelling, made every youth cry well a day. Her name was Barbara Allen. All in the merry month of May, when green moths they were swelling, young Jemmy Grove on his deathbed lay, for love of Barbara Allen. He sent his man unto her then, to the town where she was dwelling. You must come to my master dear, if your name be Barbara Allen. So slowly, slowly she came up, and slowly she came nigh him, and all she said when there she came, young man, I think you're dying. He turned his face unto her straight, with deadly sorrow sighing, "My lovely maid, come pity me, I'm on my deathbed lying. If on your deathbed you do lie, what needs the tale you're telling? I cannot keep you from your death. Farewell," said Barbara Allen. When he was dead and laid in grave, her heart was struck with sorrow. Oh, mother, mother, make my bed, for I shall die tomorrow. Farewell, she said, ye virgins all, and shunned the fault I fell in. Henceforth take warning by the fall of cruel Barbara Allen.
That song is typical of the traditional ballads. It's anonymous, from time immemorial, and exists in many slightly different versions. It's a tragic story, told very simply, and mainly through the speeches of the characters. There is very little action. Our next example shares those characteristics, and like many of the ballads, it hails from the north of the country, in this case, from Scotland. The king sits in Dunfermline town, drinking the blood-red wine. Oh, where will I get a skilful skipper to sail this new ship of mine? Oh, up and spake an elder knight, sat at the king's right knee. Sir Patrick Spens is the best sailor that ever sailed the sea. Our king has written a broad letter, and sealed it with his hand, and sent it to Sir Patrick Spens, was walking on the strand. To Norroway, to Norroway, to Norroway o'er the foam, the king's daughter, our Norroway, 'tis thou must bring her home. The first word that Sir Patrick read, so loud, loud laughed he. The next word that Sir Patrick read, a tear blinded his eye. Oh, who is this has done the deed, and told the king of me, to send us out at this time of year, to sail upon the sea? Make haste, my merry men, our good ship sails the morn. Oh, say na say, my master dear, I fear a deadly storm. Yestreen I saw the new moon, with the old moon in her arm, and I fear, my master dear, that we will come to harm. O loth, loth were our good Scots lords to whet their cork-heeled shoon, but lang or the play was played, they watched their hats aboon. O lang, lang may the ladies sit, with their fans into their hand, before they see Sir Patrick Spens come sailing to the strand. And lang, lang may the maidens sit, with their good combs in their hair, awaiting for their own dear loves. For them they'll see no more. Half hour to Aberdour, 'tis 50 fathoms deep, and there lies good Sir Patrick Spens, with the Scots lords at his feet. I don't know what it says about our national character that the traditional ballads tend so often to be sad and bleak like that. But here is an exception to lighten the mood. Again, it has cropped up in many versions over the centuries. This one is a relatively recent reworking, shaped to bring out the joke of "Get up and bar the door." There was an old couple lived under the hill, Blunt, it was their name, oh. They had good beer, and ale good to sell, and it bore a wonderful fame, oh. John Blunt and his wife, they drank of the drink, till they could drink no more, oh. They both got tired, and they went up to bed, but forgot to bar the door, oh. So they a bargain made it strong and sure, oh. The first of them should speak the first word, should get up and bar the door, oh. So there came travellers 3, travelling in the night, oh. No house, no home, no fire had they, nor yet no candle light, oh. They went to his cellar, they drank up his drink, till they could drink no more, oh. But never a word did the old couple speak, for fear who should bar the door, oh. They went to his larder, they ate up his food, till they could eat no more, oh. But never a word did the old couple speak, for fear who should bar the door, oh. They went upstairs, they went to his room, they broke down the door, oh. But never a word did the old couple speak, for fear who should bar the door, oh. They hauled his wife all out of bed, laid her out on the floor, oh. Then up got poor John Blunt in his bed, for he could stand no more, oh. Said, "You've eaten my food and drunk all my drink, and laid her out on the floor, oh." "You spoke the first word, John Blunt," she said. "So go down and bar the door, oh." The traditional ballads are part of our heritage and have been in the ears of poets as they write ever since. It's not surprising that some poets in more recent centuries have written ballads of their own. These are not anonymous, of course, and more sophisticated, and are sometimes called literary ballads, to distinguish them from the traditional ones. We'll hear a couple of these. One of the most celebrated is John Keats's La Belle Dame sans Merci. The comic review writer Michael Flanders said Keats's French title translated as "The Beautiful Lady Who Never Says Thank You." But in fact, merci here is much closer to the English word mercy. It is the beautiful maiden who shows no pity. Keats adopts ballad techniques for his tragic fairy tale. The whole story is told in speech and uses traditional ballad-like four-line verses. But it is beautifully rounded, coming back to the beginning at the end, and he puts his own stamp on the verse rhythm by making the last line of each stanza shorter, so that the story keeps stumbling to a worrying, jerky halt. "Oh, what can ail thee, knight-at-arms, alone and palely loitering? The sedge has withered from the lake, and no birds sing. Oh, what can ail thee, knight-at-arms, so haggard and so woe-begone? The squirrel's granary is full, and the harvest's done. I see a lily on thy brow, with anguish moist and fever dew, and on thy cheeks a fading rose fast withereth too. Oh, I met a lady in the meads, full beautiful, a fairy's child. Her hair was long, her foot was light, and her eyes were wild. I made a garland for her head, and bracelets too, and fragrant zone. She looked at me as she did love, and made sweet moan. I set her on my pacing steed, and nothing else saw all day long. For sidelong she would bend and sing a fairy's song. She found me roots of relish sweet, and honey wild, and manna dew, and sure in language strange she said, I love thee true. She took me to her elfin grot, and there she wept and sighed full sore, and there I shut her wild, wild eyes with kisses for. And there she lulled me asleep, and there I dreamed, oh, woe betide, the latest dream I ever dreamed, on the cold hillside. I saw pale kings, and princes too, pale warriors, death pale were they all. They cried, La Belle Dame sans Merci hath thee in thrall. I saw their starved lips in the gloam, with horrid warning gaped wide, and I awoke and found me here, on the cold hill's side. And that is why I sojourn here, alone and palely loitering, though the sedge is withered from the lake, and no birds sing. That was Keats in the 19th century, capturing the mood and atmosphere of the traditional ballad. A 20th century poet who used the ballad form several times was Charles Causley, and he gave it some new twists. Most successfully, I think, in this Ballad of the Bread Man, where he uses the ballad style and rhythm to give a fresh take on the most famous story underlying our Western civilization. Although traditional ballads come from the ancient murky past, they never say, "Once upon a time, long, long ago." They speak as if the story happened last week. So here, Causley brings the story into the modern world, which is sometimes just good fun, sometimes positively challenging. Causley lived all his life in Cornwall. He didn't speak with a West Country accent himself, but of course he heard it all around him, and I find the poem more vivid with that brogue.
Mary stood in the kitchen, baking a loaf of bread. An angel flew in through the window. "We've a job for you," he said. God in his big gold heaven, sitting in his big blue chair, wanted a mother for his little son. Suddenly saw you there. Mary shook and trembled. It isn't true what you say." "Oh, don't say that," said the angel. "The baby's on its way." Joseph was in the workshop, planing a piece of wood. "Psst! The old man's past it," the neighbours said. "That girl's been up to no good." But Mary never answered. Mary never replied. She kept the information, like the baby, safe inside. It was election winter. They went to vote in town. When Mary found her time had come, the hotels let her down. The baby was born in an annex next to the local pub. And at midnight, a delegation turned up from the Farmers' Club. They talked about an explosion that cracked a hole in the sky. Said they'd been sent to the Lamb and Flag. Yeah? To see God come down from on high. Oh. A few days later, a bishop and a 5-star general were seen with the head of an African country in a bulletproof limousine. "We've come," they said, "with tokens for the little boy to choose." Told the tale of war and peace on the television news. So after them came the soldiers with rifle and bomb and gun, looking for enemies of the state. The family had packed and gone, and when they got back to the village, neighbours said to a man, "That boy will never be one of us, though he does what he blessed well can." He went round to all the people, a paper crown on his head. "Here is some bread from my father. Take, eat," he said. Nobody seemed very hungry. nobody seemed to care. Nobody saw the God in himself, quietly standing there. He finished up in the papers. He came to a very bad end. He was charged with bringing the living to life. Oh, no man was that prisoner's friend. There's only one kind of a punishment to fit that kind of a crime. They rigged a trial and shot him dead. Well, they were only just in time. They lifted the young man by the leg. They lifted him by the arm. They locked him in a cathedral in case he came to harm. They stored him safe as water under 7 rocks. But one Sunday morning, he burst out like a jack-in-the-box. Through the town he went walking. He showed them the holes in his head. "Now do you want any loaves?" he cried. "Not today," they said.
Nothing would have induced me to do this program without that wonderful poem, which I think is one of the greatest things written in the 20th century. But we also had a listener's request for it. Next month, we have another listener's request, which is for the greatest literary ballad in the language, The Rime of the Ancient Mariner by Samuel Taylor Coleridge. But that's all for now, folks. If you enjoyed this program or recent ones, perhaps you could give it a rating or review on iTunes, or if you have one, your own preferred podcasting app.